And welcome back to round 3 of the Modern Melee tournament, where we bring you Friday Night Magic every Saturday afternoon, of course. This round we have Infect versus Gruul Aggro.
Very, very spicy matchup. I hate, in fact, I will tell you right away, I hate the deck, I hate the archetype, I always lose to it, and it's disgusting.
But I didn't see actually an Infect for a long, long while. I do think there is matter of more cards being printed that answer other cards, like for example Solitude. The format just got a lot faster with the prevalence of Ragavan, Dragon's Ray Channeler, and everything else. But I do think that people usually think of Infect as blue-green, and there is a merit to the color white and as well as the color black. I have seen some lists playing black for several black Infect creatures that have protection. And usually it does very, very well inside several matchups. But this is not the case here, as I believe we have mono green Infect.
Mono green Infect.
Yes.
Interesting.
Either might be on a budget or just there is a merit to being one color. You never get color screwed, and all of your lands come into play untapped, and you do not lose to burn as much because you don't pain yourself. And we see the first play is a Burbs of Paradise, shiny, of course, of a forest from the Gruul player and only a forest from the Infect player. Now, when you are the Infect player, you most certainly want your Infector to be turn 1 or at least some kind of ramp in your mono green deck. Most notably Noble Hierarch, because with the Infect strategy, it accounts for 2 Infect rather than 1, and every Infect damage is like having double strike on a creature. And we see the Gruul player going down to 17, fetching probably a Stomping Ground, and with 3 mana on turn 2, they are off to the races.
Definitely faster than Infect, with Infect being one of the faster decks in format. So it's not great, but I think that the Infect player mulliganed, so he might have kept bad or maybe not optimal hand.
Exactly, yes. I do think this is a Gruul Spellbreaker, crunching down with haste for 3 damage on turn 2.
Very good. Okay, second forest, and we have
Ichorclaw Mirror. This is an Infector that goes into any Infect deck, but might be a little slow. And one thing that I need to mention, first of all, when you're playing against Infect, your life really does not matter.
No.
And second of all, it's Gruul. Gruul does 2 things very well. It smashes face and kills little creatures. Their prevalence, I do think I see 1 Lightning Bolt. There is also the Stomp from the Bone Crusher Giant. There are several other ways of just getting rid of tiny creatures. Now, what we will see, 4 mana for a Bloodbraid Elf, also creatures with haste, and we see a Bone Crusher Giant.
Bone Crusher Giant going on adventure, of course.
Yes, exactly. Stomping the Ichorclaw Mirror and going into adventure. And now the Gruul player has 6 points of haste smashing damage to the face.
Very uncomfortable for the Infect player.
Very explosive start from the Gruul player, and this is one of the appeals of playing Gruul. You get to have some form of protection in creature removal, such as Lightning Bolt, such as Stomp, such as other things. You can also play Blood Moon for those pesky Urza Sagas, or Throne. And I do think this version also plays a lot of land destruction, which is also a good strategy in this meta.
Very Ponzish Gruul.
Yes.
Gruul.
So 3-4 mana being
mana.
cast for another Bloodbraid Elf into a lightning bolt. This spells certain doom for the Infect player who didn't play his third land. And as much cards and as much protection as he might. Oh, the lightning bolt actually goes face.
Goes face.
And he crunches for 9 damage. So yeah, this is basically the same thing. So it needs to block.
Not the same thing, I think, because the elf gets a -1 counter, and if he killed the creature with the bolt,
Yes, it dies because this creature also puts another -1 counter. But some trample gets through, and I do think, yeah, game 1 done fast and furious for the Gruul player without any pressure, anything from the Infect player. And he didn't really stand a chance. It was really slow out of the gates.
So obviously, game 1, Gruul is favored. I think it's a bit more explosive and has removal for those little creatures that Infect
Exactly,
puts in. So after sideboarding, what does the Infect player do? Because it's his game to take back, I think.
Yeah, first of all, the Infect player is now on the play and hopefully won't mulligan. One of the best cards for a matchup like this is Mutagenic Growth that can protect your small creatures for 0 mana from something like Stomp, from maybe even something like a Lightning Bolt, but definitely a game changer and a swinger in favor for the Infect player. Now,
Is Mutagenic Growth usually a sideboard card in Infect? I'm not sure.
no, it is definitely an 100% 4-off in the main deck because it is a free pump spell, which, as we said, if you count 1 poison damage as 2 damage regulars, then you get 4 damage for the low price of 0 mana, which is, something like Invigorate in Legacy.
Indeed.
But in this matchup, if he has something like a turn 1 Glistener Elf or something as protection for the little creatures and the Gruul player doesn't have proper removal, then we can see a turn 2 kill from the Infect side. Now, those are a little bit less common, they're a little rare, but something like the 6-4 for 1 mana that scale up, thank you very much, into a Mutagenic Growth or another pump spell is 10 poison damage to the face if not blocked. So the potential is definitely there. I do not know if the Infect player or Infect players in general will resort to something like this if they're not 100% sure they will get it, but it is definitely a possibility against something like, for example, Throne that can.
Well, with Mutagenic Growth in hand, usually you are very, very, very comfortable casting Scale Up on your creature. So, 1 Pesky Bolt can't kill it. And in turn 2, if it happens, it happened to me, you are, as the player on the other side of the table, usually quite helpless.
Yes. I do have a question.
Yeah.
So, hypothetically speaking, you can say that Infect counts as a double strike damage on a creature, right? Because you need 10 Infect poison counters and you have 20 life. Why And we see a prevalence of 2 mana infect creatures from not only from the deck such as a mono green infect, but also from a blue green infect, or maybe even blue green white infect, or black green, or whichever variant is. So why don't people play something like Naya double strike aggro? What do you think the appeal is towards Infect and not towards double strike? Because you can supplement the double strike damage with something like lightning bolts, and you can't supplement it with within Infect, because you are either losing life or getting poison counters, and not both.
Well, that's a good question. Something that I definitely did not think about at all. I think although the two mechanics they do feel the same. I think there are a lot of things that are different about them. First of all, being Infect deals combat damage in -1 counters.
Yes, that is one of the merits. Yes.
Yeah. On the other side, Double Strike has two phases in combat. First, it deals first strike,
then regular damage.
yeah, and you have some room in between those two strikes to do something.
Exactly.
That can be a good thing or a bad thing.
I mean, there have been printed several really nice double strikers in the last few years. One of them is the Boros one that has double strike, trample, and vigilance. I think. The only thing missing is haste, but if you have protection, you don't need so much haste. But another hypothetical question while they're resolving their mulligans: do you think that 1 mana, for example, 1 mana, 1/1 double strike would be a playable thing?
Well, if you have mutagenic growth or maybe 4 mutagenic growths in your hand, definitely it's a great card.
I mean, 1 mana, 1/1 double striker is the equivalent of 1 mana, 1/1 infector, right?
It is. It is. Indeed, it is.
But I do not think that we will have, not yet at least.
Maybe Infect is a bit more consistent. Maybe Infect is a bit more consistent.
You think so?
Yeah. Especially in creature combat, it can provide some value against some larger creatures that maybe double strikers can't. In my opinion. It feels like it, but as I said, I didn't think much about this, so it's hard to figure it out right now. Maybe
we're onto something.
Yeah.
We see now turn 1 Glistener Elf versus turn 1 Birds of Paradise, but also Rancor being played on it. So +2, +0, and trample. And the Gruul player playing his lands with the creatures. This is such a blasphemy.
Blasphemy, very, very blasphemous. Okay, but the game is very, very early, so I don't think, especially with tapping all 3 manas, that Gruul player is worried. And
Yeah, exactly. And we have, I do think, something like Anger of the Gods being played right now. Yes, exactly.
very decisively slowing down the Infect. You don't want to see
Infect
that.
is down to 2 cards in hand. What did they mulligan down to?
Wow.
Wow. And one of those cards is the Rancor, so not much going on for the Infect player. And on the other side, we have the Gruul player with a full grip and with 3 mana being tapped for, oh god,
no.
land destruction. No. and no land for the Infect
Wow.
player. This game is over.
This is very anticlimactic.
Yes. We were like, oh, now he has the turn one play, and now everything will be like fine and dandy, but no.
So this is over. Let's go back to Double Strike versus Infect. Which is better? Well, maybe you guys watching this video have some idea. Maybe you are smarter than us, so you can go down in comments and tell us, which one is better.
Yeah, exactly. I do think that turn one, something like a noble hierarchy, into turn two, double striker, which there are many. Starting with the old favorite fencing ace, which is a 1/1 double strike for 1 and a white, and going down the line with it has some really, really good potential turn 3 kills.
There you go.
And as I said, burn spells are something that can be complementing this strategy, because they give you the reach that Infect usually lacks, because
That's true.
Infect either does 10 poison counters or does and wins the game, or does 9 poison counters and it doesn't amount to anything.
That is
Right.
true, yeah.
Well, if you have double strike in this case, and I'm not advocating for or against one of those strategies, I'm just stating the positives and negatives of both. But if you have double strike and you get your opponent down, for example, to 6, you can finish them up with bolts. And we see the game being over, the Gruul player dismantling, unfortunately, the Infect player. But this is all for Game 3. Don't go anywhere as we bring you Game 4 in just a moment. Stay tuned.